Grenada to receive its COVAX allocation of COVID-19 vaccines on Wednesday. Details to this story and more in the National Report. Details to the news for Tuesday, April 6th. I am Chrisanne Mitchell. Grenada will this week receive its first allocation of COVID-19 vaccines under the COVAX arrangements, which seeks to accelerate the development and manufacture of COVID-19 vaccines and promote fair and equitable access for countries around the world. The Ministry of Health has confirmed that the shipment of 24,000 doses will arrive on Wednesday, April 7th. Grenada is one of the several Caribbean countries that will receive the AstraZeneca vaccines this week. The additional vaccines comes at a time when Grenada is ramping up its vaccination program across the country. In his recent address to the nation, Prime Minister Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell cited vaccination as the key to getting Grenada to the post-COVID chapter. He said, and I quote, "Vaccination holds the key to any possible return to life as we know it. If we fail to get on board, we run the risk of being left behind as the rest of the world goes back to normal." Some countries are already identifying vaccination as an entry requirement for visitors. Some airlines are making vaccinations mandatory for travelers, and as the cruise industry prepares to set sail again, some cruise lines are already outlining vaccination requirements for both passengers and crew, unquote. The Prime Minister, who has already received his first dose of the vaccine, encouraged everyone who meets the eligibility criteria to get vaccinated. To date, more than 10,000 Grenadians have been vaccinated. The uptake is slower than health officials would like, but the ministry is continuing its education campaign and increasing the number of locations where the vaccine can be obtained. Continuing the news, local medical doctor Mayana Charles says from a global point of view, Grenada has done well to minimize the number of people infected with COVID-19. She was speaking during a national discussion on COVID-19, which was held recently at the St. George's Baptist Church. Grenada has recorded just over 150 positive COVID-19 cases, most of them import-related, with one death.
Is 76% after your first dose and 82.4% after your second dose. Now, that percentage does not refer to the population. It refers to an individual. So what that means, right, that if you get vaccinated, there is 76% chance after your first dose that you are protected from COVID as an individual, right? If you ask me, 76% protection is better than zero protection.
Dr. Charles says, based on scientific review, the AstraZeneca vaccine provides good protection. She also addressed controversial information in circulation about the efficacy of the vaccine and its alleged links to blood clots in a few people who have received the vaccine.
This has been evaluated before by the European medical regulators, by the World Health Organization, and what was concluded from that is that the occurrence of clots normally in the general population is not more than the occurrence in persons who receive the vaccine, right? And I know there are new concerns. For instance, Germany, they have halted use of the AstraZeneca vaccine because of rare blood clots. Scientists from the WHO earlier on this week has, reiterated again that there is no proven link between the AstraZeneca vaccine and those clots.
In an effort to reach as much of the population who are desirous of receiving the vaccine, the government, through the Ministry of Health, has activated some additional vaccination sites for the month of April. Plans are in the making to stage a second Investment Migration Roundtable in November this year. The roundtable, an initiative of the Grenada Cooperative Bank Limited, was first held in November 2020 and brought together industry stakeholders, including representatives from the legal and financial sectors, as well as government and the Citizenship by Investment Unit. Wilvern Granger, Executive Manager of Sales and Services at the Grenada Cooperative Bank, says based on the successful staging of the inaugural event, the bank is keen to again create a platform for stakeholders to engage in frank discussion on the investment migration matters. The objective, he says, is to help strengthen Grenada's strategy and framework for developing investment migration as a sustainable sector for the economy.
This, we believe, is an annual engagement, and we will continue that. We already set a date. November of this year will be the second conference, and we'll be looking to improve. We have shared a report with all participants, and we await feedback so we can build and be better this year, God's willing.
Granger underscored the significance of investment migration as a development imperative for countries, as there seems to be a general misconception of the idea.
For economies to strive and develop, two things have to happen. There must be inward flow of capital and skilled labor, right? And that is what investment migration is all about. The movement of capital into your country, and of course skilled labor, which you can get from your new citizens afterwards. Several developed states have very strong and robust investment migration programs, and which they have been using for their own development needs. And of course, we should do the same, given that we have seen the benefits of those investment migration programs worldwide. You can utilize, of course, the government initiative is to utilize the funds for infrastructural development, and this is good revenue, right, to be received to support your infrastructural development, and whether it is in health, whether it is road, or whatever the case is. So we have to ensure that we have that framework, we support those development initiatives.
Granger says, as the only indigenous bank on the island, the Grenada Cooperative Bank is prepared to support any development initiatives of the government. This is the National Report. More news after the break. Welcome back. The Ministry of Sports, Culture and the Arts, Fisheries and Cooperatives will launch a 13-week program in music production for students at secondary schools. The program will be launched on Wednesday, April 7th, 2021 at 11 a.m. at the newly constructed studio facility at MacDonald College, St. Patrick, and will run from April 12th to July 9th, 2021. Students will be presented with a program outline along with a demonstration of the equipment and operations. The ministry will also launch its newly produced online teaching aid program for the performing arts. The program was developed by tutors in the Division of Culture and the Arts and is intended to provide current students and beginners with a platform to develop skills needed in music and dance. It will be broadcast weekly for students and the general public. And finally, in the news, the Royal Grenada Police Force has reported an increase in crowd numbers over the Easter weekend. With the curfew in place from midnight to 4 a.m., many used the long holiday weekend to assemble at the usual hotspots in various parts of the country.
On the eastern side of the island, 4 businesses in particular were shut down. 2 of them, they were granted permission to operate. The other 2, they were not granted permission to operate. And they had to be shut down because they exceeded the allotted amount of patrons for public gatherings. These business owners were also notified that charges will be preferred against them. And one in particular of concern to us was a gathering at Tivoli in St. Andrew, where that activity had in excess of 500 persons in attendance. And as I stated earlier, no permission for this activity, nor was permission granted for playing of amplified music at that activity.
That was Corporal Cordina Douglas McLean, who is attached to the Community Relations Department. The RGPF recorded 1 chopping incident in the parish of St. Andrew and 1 stabbing in St. George's. Data from the Traffic Relations Department was also updated.
There were a total of 39 vehicular accidents, of which 2 were serious, and a total of 274 fixed penalty tickets were issued. These tickets were issued during regular routine checks and stop and search operations that were conducted during the period under review. A total of 11 vehicles were impounded due to those vehicles not being insured, and 9 persons were charged for driving without being the holders of driver's license.
There was an increase in visitor arrivals on the Sister Isles. However, no major law enforcement issues were recorded. That story has ended the national report for today, Tuesday, April 6, 2021. On behalf of the entire news and production team here at the Government Information Service, I am Chrisanne Mitchell saying thank you for joining us.